Adventures with Andi, Dyeing Knitted Eggs, take 1. Wait! Hey, where's the sound? Alright people, let's cut! Cut! Adventures with Andi, Dyeing Knitted Eggs, take 2. Oh, for the love of who forgot to plug in the camera? Cut! Adventures with Andi, Dyeing Knitted Eggs, take 3.
Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Adventures with Andi. This time, I dragged Chad out from behind the camera so he could join me, because adventures are always more fun when you have someone to share them with.
Hey everybody.
We had originally planned to post this video on Easter because in this adventure we were dyeing knitted eggs. Unfortunately, we ran into some technical difficulties. Not with the dyeing itself, but with the videos. First, we recorded the whole part where we prepped the eggs to be dyed, and we mixed up the dye and everything. Recorded all that only to discover that the microphone on my laptop was not picking up any audio. So we stopped recording, and Chad went and got his external microphone, and he got that all hooked up. It was awesome having your own in-house computer guy. And we made sure that it was recording audio, and we started off again. And then we dyed the eggs, and everything was going really good. We were having a lot of fun too. And all of a sudden we got a low battery warning on the laptop because, like an idiot, I forgot to plug it into the wall. And before we could get the power cord and get it plugged in, or even press stop on the recording so it would save it, my computer just shut down. It's like, 10 years old?
Yeah.
And so I don't expect miracles from it. It still worked fine for me. But yeah, it'll shut down fast when the battery's going down. So we lost all of that video. And at that point, we figured, let's just go ahead and finish dyeing the eggs. We can't undo what we've done. Once we've gone that far, you can't undye it. We figured we just go ahead and finish dyeing them, have fun with it, and not worry about video. So we did. We dyed them, we rinsed them, and all of that. And but the one thing that we have not done is after we finished washing them and rinsing them out, we had to dry them. And since we actually wanted the eggs to felt a little bit, you're going to do that with the amigurumi, we tossed them in this mesh bag and tossed it in the dryer with some other laundry towels, I think. Mm-hmm. That we were doing, and we dried them that way. But we've not looked at them yet. So we don't know how they turned out in the end. And we thought for that, we'd go ahead and invite y'all along to join us. But first, we're going to run you through a quick recap of what we did to dye these. The first thing we did, Chad?
Well, first you knitted up 6 eggs.
No, I knitted up 8 eggs.
8 eggs.
Yeah, remember?
Oh, that's right, yeah.
That's right.
And which yarn did you use?
I don't know. That's part of the adventure of it is I got the idea to do this like the Tuesday before Easter because that's how I always get my ideas last minute. So I just went stash diving in my yarn TARDIS looking for plain white yarn that I could use to knit up some eggs with. And I found a ball of yarn that I had for a project. It was leftover yarn. I balled it up, tossed it in there. I don't know what it is because I'm really bad about when I get done with the project and I have leftover yarn. I just toss it in storage and don't bother putting a tag on it so I know what it is later. However, I suspect that this yarn was Barocco Vintage DK because several years ago I had planned to knit a red and white hat for a friend. I was going to do straight and colored work and make it a double knitted hat. And so I went out and I bought a bunch of Barocco Vintage DK in red and in white and started knitting the hat. But it was my first straight color work project and it did not work out as great as I would have liked. So I just broke the whole thing, balled up the yarn, and tossed it in storage. As I was working knitting up these eggs, I kept finding little bits of red fiber in it. So I suspect that this is the yarn that I frogged from that hat. if it is Barocco Vintage DK, Chad, what is the fiber composition of Barocco Vintage DK yarn?
It's, if I remember correctly, isn't it like 50% acrylic, 42% wool, and 8% nylon?
Very good. And he's not even a knitter, y'all. He just follows me along to yarn shops and pays for the yarn.
I see a lot of labels.
He sees a lot of labels. He carries the yarn for me, and he pays for it.
And receipts.
And receipts. He sees a lot of
receipts.
receipts. Yeah, he basically encourages my yarn habit. But yes, if I remember correctly, Barocco Vintage DK is 50% acrylic, 8% nylon, 42% wool. And this is important because wool and nylon can be dyed with acid dyes, but acrylic can't. You have to use special dyes for that. I don't have that dyes. And the dye that you use for acrylic, I don't believe it can dye wool and nylon. I could be wrong about that. But the important thing is that with the dyes that we're using, because we were using food coloring with vinegar, it's not going to dye acrylic. That's not going to take any color whatsoever. It might stain, but over time it would just wash out. And usually that happens pretty quickly. So we weren't sure what kind of effect we were going to get. We could get just some really pale pastel colors where the wool and the nylon picked up the dye, or we could get a heathering effect, where again the wool and nylon picked up the dye, but the nylon didn't, so it stayed white, and the other fibers took the dye. Mm-hmm. We weren't sure how it was going to end up. So that was going to be part of the adventure, part of the mystery. How would this turn out? And that's what I like about adventures is you just don't know. You just go for it. You just have fun. So that's what the yarn was. Mm-hmm. That's what I used to know the eggs. There were 8 of them.
If you had thought about all the technical difficulties you'd encounter, you could have knitted up some spares so you could have just started over. Right?
Yeah, well, where's the fun in that? Okay.
Got to dye 16 eggs?
Well, if I thought about this more than like 5 days in advance, I would have knitted up a couple of dozen because it was fun and I wanted to knit more. I'll have to remember that for next year. We're going to do this again next year.
Probably. See how things have improved?
Yeah, sure, why not? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Save these eggs for comparison then.
Well, yeah.
Don't let them spoil.
I'll do my best. You want to put them in the fridge?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. All right, so after that we mixed up a vinegar water bath to soak the eggs in. We also took the leftover amount, because I had a little bit of the yarn left over. It wasn't enough to knit 2 more eggs with, and I didn't want to have an uneven number. I wanted us both to be able to buy the same number of eggs. It's only fair. Mm-hmm. So we soaked the knitted eggs and that leftover yarn in a vinegar water bath, and we let them sit for, 30 minutes?
Yeah, 30 minutes.
30 minutes, which is standard. The way that these dyes work is when you're dyeing with food color, you need an acid component to get the dye to attach to the fiber, to bond with the fiber. You also need heat to set it. And we were using a crock pot for this. It's an old one we have. It's not the one we use for cooking. Dyeing with food dye, with food color is food safe, but I prefer just having dedicated dye equipment. The food color that we used was Wilton's icing food color, which is a gel. We used do that for me, Chad, your eyes.
The golden yellow.
Golden yellow.
Kelly green. No taste red.
No taste red?
Mm-hmm.
It's tasteless?
Apparently so.
Okay.
That would be violet. Teal. And royal blue.
Yes. And I forget, what was the mixture ratios that we used for this?
For the food color?
Yeah.
It was kind of, we had the water.
Mm-hmm. How much of the water, do you remember?
We used a cup of water, and then I think 2 tablespoons of vinegar, and then added more vinegar so it would quite strike quicker. Mm-hmm. And then just a popsicle stick used to spoon in some of some of the gel, so that really wasn't that measured out.
Yeah. And these are the leftovers that we have of the dye that we mixed. The reason that we don't have a jar for the yellow is because when we got done dyeing the eggs, I took what little was left of the yellow and just poured it in the crock pot with the leftover yarn. What's called a yarn mop. I'm a huge fan of Rebecca from Kim Knits, and she does that. She believes in the philosophy of no dye left behind. I think that's a great philosophy. So when she's dyeing something, after she's done dyeing whatever she's dyeing, if there's still any dye left in the dye bath, she'll toss a blank skein of yarn in there just to soak that up. And she calls it a yarn mop, so that's what we did too. So I tossed the rest of the yellow dye in with what was left in the dye bath, poured in a little more of the blue and possibly the red, and just let it sit and soak up. These right here are the color that was left in the dye bath that yarn mop did not soak up. I have 3 mason jars worth of them, and I'm keeping them because I've ordered some more blank yarn that is actually definitely at least 75% wool and no acrylic. I've got some that's 100% wool coming in too, and I'm going to see if I can't dye them up with this.
You're not going to try to sell them as moonshine?
I am not going to try to sell them as moonshine because they are not moonshine and they wouldn't get anybody drunk. Plus, I don't have a license to sell moonshine. I am a law-abiding Andy. Okay, so after we mixed up all of the dye and had let the eggs and the yarn mop sit in their vinegar water bath for 30 minutes, we just basically, we had these jars open like this, and we dipped them in, dumped them in. I took some dye that's still a little bit unmixed up, spread it on this crumpled up aluminum foil, and wrapped that around the egg that I had done some dyeing on.
What kind of effect did you expect with that?
I was hoping for kind of like maze lines, like crackle lines all around it. And I did it with the blue, so I was hoping that would be a nice pattern around it.
Like a faux painting technique?
Yeah, kind of something like just try it out.
Yeah.
What did you do with your one?
I did some dipping with one. I did one where I dipped the egg in half in one color, half in the other color. And
yeah, but the one where you left the room.
Oh.
At one point in the middle of all of this, he just got it. He said, "I'll be back," and he left the room, and then he came back in.
I put some petroleum jelly on the egg to see if that would leave a blank spot.
Yeah. So.
And when she did knit the egg, she did leave a tail on them, perhaps that long, so that it was easy to dip the egg. Almost like a candle. Dip the egg, pull it out, and you can turn it around, tail on the other end, dip it in.
Yeah.
She planned ahead.
I thought ahead. Look at
me. She just didn't plan for technical difficulties.
Well, no. I should have thought about that. I used to be a computer tech, so you would think I would think about stuff like that. But nah, it's been too many years. I've wiped all that from my memory.
So, on with the eggs.
Okay, so after we finished dyeing them, we put them in empty mason jars and put those in the crock pot and had some water in the crock pot and turned it up to high and put the lid on it and let it steam for 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, I think we did one of them at 30 maybe.
Something like that. And that's the heat component to set the dye. Because remember, you need animal fiber, you need dye, you need an acid component, which was our vinegar.
Would hydrochloric acid would have worked?
No, that would probably have disintegrated the dye.
Sulfuric acid?
No.
No?
No.
No?
You're not allowed to be in charge of dyeing.
Okay.
Okay.
Citric acid?
Yes!
Okay.
Citric acid would work, which is why you can also do this with Kool-Aid. And I do have Kool-Aid packets, but I wanted to try it with the Wilton's food coloring gel instead this time. But you also need heat. If you don't have heat, if you don't have one of those components, if you just dye with just the dye and you don't have the vinegar, the acid component, or you don't have heat, then the first time you go to wash them, it's just going to wash out all the color. So we put the mason jars in the crock pot, let it sit and steam for 20-30 minutes. And then after they had cooled down, we rinsed them out in a just
Water and Dawn solution.
Pretty much room temperature water. Use some Dawn dishwashing liquid to get any excess out, and then once the water was running clear, that's when we tossed the eggs in here and tossed them in the dryer. And the yarn mop, we did not toss in the dryer because we didn't want to felt it. I do want to try getting something with it, so I just hung it up to dry, and it just...
And now your yarn mop was in the crock pot the entire time, though.
Yeah, the yarn mop was in the crock pot the entire time. It wasn't getting any dye from the eggs in the mason jars, obviously, because they were contained in here. So that's why I just poured the excess of the yellow and some of the other colors in there just to see what I would get, because I wanted to dry something with that yarn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to move these out of the way. And I'll show you what we came up with on our yarn mop. And remember, this was completely light yarn when we started. And this is what it looks like now.
Nice moss green.
Nice moss green.
It's got a little bit of yellow in there.
And some brown.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really soft. And yeah, you can see we got some nice color in here. And it took the color well. We don't have any white spots in it, even though there's a lot of acrylic. Even though this is 50% acrylic, it's all taken the dye very well. And I will be knitting something with this at some point. I have no idea.
Sweater?
No.
Sweater for the cat.
I could do that.
There you go.
You think Yelena would wear it?
I don't think she has a choice. She'd wear it.
Whether she wanted to or not.
And she's got the hat that almost matches, too.
Yelena, for those of you who don't know her, is one of our personal cats. She is our Siamese mix, who has a world of health issues. She is just a medical mystery that vets just shake their head at. And she has allergies. And when she has her allergies flare up, she scratches and has to wear shirts to keep herself from scratching. So yes, a sweater would actually be worthwhile for her, but probably won't.
Yeah.
No, maybe
Okay.
maybe a hat. So okay, let's line this back up, and we can take a look at our eggs.
That only took 4 takes.
Did not. Took 12. Okay.
I was giving you the benefit of the doubt there.
Oh, thank you. All right. So, are you ready for this?
I am. Let's see what we got.
Roll. Do you want to open it?
Sure, I'll open it. Hopefully the eggs are still in here.
I hope so. Oh, check that
Well,
out.
whatever
They're
got
away.
They're rolling.
They're rolling. Well, they are eggs.
Yep. That was one I dyed. Dipped it in the red, which came out sort of a salmon, and in the teal, which came out teal. And you can see some bleed through here where the teal and the red came together to form a purpley.
And this is one that I dyed. I dyed it with the yellow, which turned out a really nice yellow. And then on this side, I dyed it with pink, and the orange band is where I let the two of them meet. We have cut those tails off that Chad was telling you about before, so we don't have those, but
They're over there.
They're over here, where we cut them all off, out of the way.
Well, there's this one, which I dyed. Yeah. I dyed it strictly in the purple, but just slowly lowered it in over the course of probably about 5 minutes so that it was darkest at the bottom and then lightened up to the top where it's a very pale, almost periwinkle color.
And that's a technique called dip dyeing, and it gives you a gradient. I think, yeah.
That's your tinfoil one.
This is the one that I did with the tin foil, and I don't know if you can see it.
Or aluminium for our Canadian friends.
I didn't know Canadians called it aluminium. I thought it was just the...
No, the Canadians do as well.
Oh, so we're the odd ducks out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so I don't know if you can see this really well. I'm going to see if I can't get up close where you can see it as best you can. But you can see the little splotches of blue, and that's where I put that dye on the aluminum foil and wrapped it around the egg. I had dyed it. I dipped it in half the blue, half the green, and then overdyed it with that aluminum foil blue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This is one of mine where I actually tried resistance dyeing. It didn't work. I had used some cotton yarn, which would not have dyed, and wound it around the egg. But unfortunately, I didn't tie it tight enough, so it fell off. And so there's a little partial line right there, but that's about as good as we got.
Okay. And this is one of mine. I just did splotch it with some blue and some green and the teal. There is one interesting thing on this one though. I don't know if you can see it really well, but there is one white stitch. And I don't know why one stitch completely was white, but that would be where it was the acrylic yarn as opposed to wool or nylon. And like I said, it doesn't take acid dyes. So it's still completely white, just this one stitch. Whereas the whole rest of the egg has lots of different colors. So I thought that was pretty interesting. What you got next, Chad?
Next up, this is the one where I used the petroleum jelly to basically try to create a negative, which it kind of worked out in that you can see there's a little...
It's a bunny.
Frodo bunny there, you know.
It's a bunny.
And on this side, it's, another bunny.
It's another bunny.
Or a shuggoth. I don't know.
It's not a shuggoth.
It's not a shuggoth?
I hope it's not a shuggoth.
No.
I'd rather it be a bunny.
Yeah.
I see the bunny.
It's there. They do eat less than the shuggoth.
Well, yes. Okay. And then last but not least, this was one of mine, and I don't remember exactly what I was trying to do with this one. I think I was just doing something abstract with it, and it didn't work out. You can see there's a great big splotch here that was blue, and I had some red over here, and I didn't even know what else. I ended up not liking it at all, so I just overdyed it. I think just tossed it in the red to overdye it, and it came out this kind of cool coppery rust color, sort of like rusty iron. Or
so now that splotch there can be your verdigris on the copper.
Verdigris copper. So I think in the end, the overdye.
It's your steampunk egg.
It's a steampunk. Well, then I need to put gears on it.
But I'm not stopping you.
You're not stopping me. All right, so that's it. Those are the eggs. This is the yarn. I can now get my hair bands out of the other side of this and not have to have my hair down in my face anymore like I have for the past week or so. But yeah, we dyed eggs.
I thought they turned out pretty good.
I think they did too, and I really enjoyed it.
They dyed some vibrant colors. I mean, so the 50% acrylic didn't really serve as a detriment to the dye striking.
No, it didn't. It didn't. And we can tell from our yarn mop that it took dye really, really well. And it was in the heat longer than the eggs. It was also in a direct dye bath. So the eggs, when we dyed them, they were getting dipped into the cold dye solution, whereas this yarn was in a hot dye bath.
For at least the entire duration the eggs were in there. And we could only fit 2 mason jars in the crock pot at a time, so they had to go in sequence.
So, it was in there for, hour?
Probably.
Yeah. So, but that's it. That was our Easter adventure.
And it was quite the adventure with all the technical difficulties.
It was. Did you have fun, though?
I did have fun.
Yeah.
But I was spending time with you. So.
Oh, you see how sweet he is. So you'll do more adventures with me sometime?
Sure.
I can coax you out from behind the camera.
Maybe sometimes.
Awesome. All right. Well.
So what's next for dyeing adventures?
I don't know. Like I said, I've bought a lot of bare yarn to dye. I've still got some coming in.
And ordered today.
Yeah, I wanted to support one of my local yarn shops because right now they can't have customers come in to shop, obviously, since we're all keeping people safe by staying home and not congregating together. But hey, you can still order online, so I placed an order with them today for a bunch of bare white yarn that they happen to have in stock and were wanting to sell.
Just place the order over the phone.
Yeah, and
they'll ship it out on Monday.
Yeah, and I don't know what I'm going to do with that yarn yet. I'll figure something out.
The only reason it's shipping out on Monday and not today
Mm-hmm.
is because she didn't have a big enough box to put the yarn that she ordered in. So she has to get a bigger box, and then she can ship it out on Monday.
Now, in my defense, to keep myself from buying too much yarn and going overboard, I chatted with the shop owner through Facebook to make sure that, you know, what yarn it was she had and that she had white yarn and how much she had. And then I had Chad call her to actually place the order, because that way, you know, I wouldn't just say, oh, just send it all to me. I will take all the yarn. No, I was sitting in the room while he did it, and she's like, well, I've got this many skeins of this and this many skeins of this. How much do you want? And he said, just send it all. We'll buy it all. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I've got 20 skeins of yarn coming in from her.
So if you do need undyed yarn at a discount, let me know.
It's mine.
Mm-hmm.
You bought it for me. You're going to sell it to other people.
Well, if I can make a profit, then I can buy you more yarn. That's how it works.
Ah, you're so smart.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, I hope all of y'all really enjoyed this adventure with us, even though you didn't get to tag along for the whole thing and you had to just kind of hear about it after the fact. I still hope it was interesting for you.
They don't break.
They don't break. They bounce.
Mm-hmm.
Can you juggle them? I can't juggle.
No.
No. You can juggle. I can juggle one.
There you go.
I do promise lots of other yarn dyeing videos. It's something I enjoy doing, and I have some plans for it, but also other adventures that will have nothing to do with yarn whatsoever, because I have lots of different interests.
So I can stay over there.
He's tossing eggs all over my office, y'all. I can't stop him. Now he's throwing them at my computer. You keep this up, and you're going to have to buy me a new computer. Oh, wait, is that your plan?
I don't think the egg is going to break the computer.
All right. All right. Well, y'all have a fantastic day. Enjoy yourself. Stay happy. Stay healthy. Wash your hands. You didn't stop that. And I will see you the next time that we have adventures. Say bye, Chad. Stop throwing eggs.
Well, see you, everybody.
Bye.
I'll stop it for you.